published several research papers in national and international journals, and given various invited talks at national and international conferences and all these things. He has also published one book, and he has also do various administrative responsibilities. So he is also very kind researcher in the field of pharmacy. So I welcome on behalf of all the research students and on behalf of Research Committee Science College Nanded, Dr. Shailesh Patvekar sir.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, now I request Dr. Shailesh sir to start your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Marathi sir. All the research team from our science college. I'm grateful to be here for discussion. I will say discussion related to the research ethics. So we are. I'm going to talk on the research ethics, which is the core area in the field of our research, or specifically the coursework. Just in few minutes, I will just share my that presentation. Till we'll discuss the points which I am going to cover on our today's lecture, that is on the research ethics. So if we see the outline of the research, so basically the name itself indicate that what should be the ethics that we have to maintain while doing the research. So in this, what are the ethics? So, or if we see the outline of our this research ethics. So in this outline, we are just going to cover the introduction to ethics in research. So which are the different parameters that we are going to cover in the introductory part of our ethics. So we should, or I will say we must have to maintain the ethics from day one to last day of our PhD or research. Okay, because all the things, they are directly or indirectly, they show how our research we are going to complete, how we have continued or performed the research which is related to our topic, then which are the different aspects we have used while performing all these research parameters. So in this introductory, we can see the definition of the ethics. Then important part, that is what is human research. Okay, so what is human research? So human values that are very important. So are you able to see the presentation? Yeah. Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So, if you see the various these outlines, Okay, now you will be more clear uh, when we are going with the index. So, which are the points that we are going to cover? So, basically, human research. So, human values, human research, that should be the center of our research. Okay, then why is research ethics important? Okay, so what is the need of this ethics in our research? Because as I said, the ethics is very important, because what we are doing, what we are performing, that is basically that should be performed practically if we are the science students, if the student from other background like commerce, so various students now they are here. So as per the ethics, we should present whatever the study we have performed. No doubt, it should be positive, or sometime it should be negative, because some negative results they also help us to improve in our results or our research. Okay, so what is human research? Then why is research ethics important? Okay, why there is need of research ethics? Okay, because many cases we can see the sometime that is the plagiarism, or sometime there may be problem with the paper publication, or there may be the problem during our uh, research writing or practical writing. So why this problem occurs? Because the lacuna in the knowledge, or sometime accidentally it could be happen, because we don't know what is or someone they have already performed this work, and they have mentioned such type of work. So that's for that, for getting the positive results, or to avoid such kind of negativity, we should perform the literature, strong literature. So in the ethics, to avoid these types of problematic or duplicacy in our research, so what is most important thing, that we should avoid, or we should perform the this type of studies uh, very critically, or the review, or the literature review, whatever we are doing, that should be uh, better one. Okay, then next point, that is uh, ethical principles guiding research. So ethical principles, which are the different ethical principles that we have to follow, or we have to maintain. So in that also we are going to discuss the different ethics. Okay, research ethics. Then next point, that is the ethical principles. The ethical principles which are available, or which are present for the work or the literature, that is also important. Then next is the ethical principles according to the Belmont report. So there are some reports which are mentioned. So different reports that we are going to discuss. So I will again share the slides after just 2 minutes. So in this also we can use or we can implement the different parts of these ethics. Okay. Then please mute the mics of participants. Actually, it is disturbing. Then when we go for ethics, audience or who is the beneficiary of that ethics, research ethics. Okay. Then there are some procedures for protecting the study participants. So if we see the different participants, what are the procedures for studying the participants? That part we are discussing separately. Then next is the major potential benefits to the these participants. So as per the participants, who should be the potential beneficiary, because as we are knowing or as we are targeting the research, so social scenario must be there. So in that social scenario, we must consider the audience or the beneficiaries. Then next, that is major potential risk to the participants. Okay. Then ethics means which are the different areas that we are going to focus. Then treatment of the vulnerable group. So we will discuss all these things in detail. So what is the ethics in research? Okay, what is the ethics in research? It is important point acceptable or accept the responsibility to behave ethically towards those who will be affected by research. Okay, means the ethical or the beneficiary who are the targets for this ethics, or who are the responsible persons to conduct this ethics. So ethically toward those who will be affected by your research. Okay, so this should be included in our research ethics. Okay. Then the ethics is the study of proper action. Okay. So whenever we go with ethics, like we have discussed that from where we are collecting the data, from where we are collecting the literature, or is that literature is useful, or is that literature is in the flow? Because many review article, many research article, so which are freely downloaded, or which are paid, but at that time we should select, or we should be conscious while downloading or collecting the data from these resources. Okay, then the research ethics, it will be concern the responsibility of researcher to be honest and respectful to all individuals. Yes, it is very important. The researcher should be honest one. He should have the interest to collect the data which is useful for his research, and the collected data should be the original one, and on that basis the researcher, he will get the respect or respectful with the individual, so who may not be affected by their research studies. Sometime it may happen, the research proposal will be rejected, research synopsis will be rejected, then research papers will be sent back for many corrections, many updates, or many times, or sometimes the research papers will be rejected. But what is our job, or what is our responsibility? We should answer them, we should convey them related to the development, or related to the originality of research. Okay, sometime it may happen that you are giving the correct data for publication, for your research synopsis, for your research thesis, but sometime, yeah, the problem may be there. But what we have to do, we have to take it positively, and we have to solve that problem with our updated data, or updated research, that data, research data. Okay, so research studies or the reports of the studies that should be affected with the individual. Okay, so here again we can see the principles of the ethics, or what is ethics? So principle for guiding the decision making and reconciling the conflicting values. Okay, so here each and every word, it is very useful, it is very important. Okay, so there should be a principle for guiding, or for making the decision, or for reconciling the conflicting values. Okay, so here the people maybe disagree on ethics because it is based on people's personal value system. Okay, so again we can say what one person consider it is good or right, may be considered bad or wrong by another person. So as we discussed, the principle, okay, the principle of our research ethics, the objective of our research title, the objective, then outcome, then whatever the literature we have performed. So on the basis of literature only we write the synopsis. So after writing the synopsis, whatever the data we are collected, so the person who is having the depth knowledge in that topic, then he will ask some questions, some doubts, some problems. And what is our duty to answer that question, or to convince him related to the topic, related to the objective, related to the scope. So goes on. Okay, but sometime the corrections or the updates it may be required. So they will give the bad inputs to your synopsis. But whenever we are bind with our principles, we are bind with our ethics, we are bind with our reconciling conflicting values. At that time, we have to we disagree with these uh, suggestions. So at that time, we should who is there on front way. So that time he has to be based or particularly attached with its base. Okay. So at that time, this ethics is very important. Okay. Then these human research ethics, the basis. So in that human research ethics, if we see the basics of the human research ethics, we should be centric with the human research ethics, or we should be centric with human values. Okay, human values are very useful while considering the research, because we are seeing many wars, they are in progress now. If we see the Israel war of Israel or Hamas, so there also the use of research is not useful, because the people are dying, the negativity is at highest peak. So at that time, the human values are not considered. So what should be the basics? Basics is that the human values that must be considered, that must be centric, that must be considerable. Okay. Then what is human research? Okay. So nowadays we see the different applications or apps which are acting on AI, okay, artificial intelligence. So now many people, they are just putting the question to that chat GPT, and that chat GPT is giving all the answers. But is that really useful for our research or our day-to-day life? Because the answers that has been given by AI, that are completely uh, theoretical based. We know what are the different practical problems we face in the society. Okay, so in this case, the human research, or the human research is the research conducted with people. Okay, and the research conducted about people, the research dealing in their data or tissue. Okay, so the data which is going to be collected, or the data which is going to be focused, so that data that will be focused on the people. Okay, or we can say the human. Okay, so our center of this research, that is the uh, human. Okay, so many times we find the questions like, why is research ethics important? Okay, so what is the need of research ethics in our day-to-day life? So in this, the research ethics, it is for the reflection of respect, for the reflection of respect for those who take part in research. Okay, the person who is taking part in the research, okay, or someone is going to invent something, okay, so at that time those who take part, he need the respect, and that respect must be reflected by these research ethics. Okay, then this research ethics, it will ensure that no unreasonable or unsafe or thoughtless demands are made by the researchers. Okay, so many researchers, sometime it happens that due to the thought, due to the any startup we can say, or due to the discussion, so many demands that will be generated. Okay, so that must be thinkful, that should not be thoughtful. Okay, or thoughtless. Okay, it should not be thoughtless. So we have to ensure that because of the reason only, or because of for the safe purpose, or because of the thinking demands, they are made by researcher. It should not be unreasonable, unsafe and thoughtless. Okay, so due to the research, these research ethics, this we can avoid the these three causes. Then it ensures the sufficient knowledge to shared by all concerned. With these ethics, we get the knowledge, we get the different demands, we get the proper data by these ethics. Okay, then this research ethics imposes a common standard in all the above respect. To maintain all the standard, this ethics is important. Then this ethics is important because it has the norms as the expectation for research activity. So for performing the research activity, for continuing the research activity, we have to become the norms which have been given, or the expectations for the research activity. Okay. Then professional requirement for the practitioner in some discipline. So someone is working in psychology. So in that case, for the practitioners, so many professional requirement like law, like pharmacy, then like any other disciplines. So here we have taken the example of psychology. So the requirement of the practitioner, as per the requirement, the ethics should be changed or must be changed. Okay, then requirement for access to participant in other example, like I have told, in pharmacy, in health, the requirement will be different to assay. Then to comply with external REFs to obtain the funding. So many funding agencies are there. So social benefit, or for the requirement to comply with external these agencies which provide the funding with related to the research ethics. So Many times we write the proposals for getting the financial help for completing our research project. At that time also this research ethics is important. Okay. Then ethics principle guiding research, ethical principles which guide the research. Okay. So these are the things which are useful or for completing the principles of the research ethics. We are performing this practice. So to respect the human dignity, to respect the human values, we are continuing or we are doing these research ethics. Then to respect for free and for informed consent. So many times in our daily analysis or when we perform the study for assay or the comparative analysis whenever we perform or market analysis when we perform. So at that time, the consents or the resources which we have used in our pharmacy, we use the for clinical practice, for clinical analysis, we use some volunteers for getting the result from the patient. We are called them as a volunteer. So that volunteer, he must be free, he must be informed regarding whatever study is going to conduct on that person. Then how this is directly not affect to that human. Okay. So he should know with this ethical practice, we take the undertaking, we give him some documents which are useful to use them or which are used to sign from him. So many times it is useful. Then these ethics give the respect for vulnerable persons. So many persons in the society, they work for this respect. Okay. So these vulnerable persons, they are working in the society or they are the base of the society. So they should not be hurt physically or emotionally. But when it happens, when the ethics is maintained, okay, then respect for privacy and confidentiality. As I have mentioned, the example of our clinical studies of our pharmacy. So it needs many times the confidentiality because so many studies, they are related to the many body parts on body parts, on skin, on cosmetic. So these different types of the studies that have been performed on that person. So at that time, the confidentiality must be maintained. Okay, or sometime in social science, we can see if we are studying on the population number. So at that time also, the or we are working on sexual that calculation. So at that time also, we should maintain the confidentiality. So that is given in ethics. Okay. Then respect for justice and inclusiveness of every part which is included in the studies of our research. Okay. So many times we read the conflict of interest. So in the acknowledgement or in the conflict of interest, we include the name of any person, any lab, or we include the name of any inclusiveness which has given direct or indirect support. So that is also mentioned in the ethics, okay, principles of ethics. Then balancing the harms and benefits. So we know on the both sides of the coin, one side there is the harmness, and another side there may be the benefits to the that person or the society. Okay, so at that time uh, it may be harmful to some that population, and it may be useful for some population. But whenever we are thinking at that time, it must be more beneficial instead of the harm. Okay, so that's why if you see the next 2 points, one is minimizing harm and maximizing the benefit. Okay, so both the coins we have to maintain for these ethical principles. Okay, then next if we see about the human dignity. Okay, so what is dignity? What is the dignity, or why the human they need the dignity? Because as in the index only we discussed, there are many types of the principles, human principles, human dignity. So here the cardinal principle is there. So these cardinal principles, if we see, then the basis of the ethical obligation. So there are many obligations. The in that we are focusing an ethical obligation. Okay. So obligation means the state of having to do something. Okay, as per the law or as per the duty. Okay, so we have to perform our duties. Many times we see the dignity that has to be maintained on the basis of obligation, because as if we take the example of the teacher is having the ethical obligation, he is having the binding that he must be work for the improvement of the student. He must be included or inclusively practice in the academic and administrative work of that institute. He must think about the improvement of the that institute. So many obligations that are bind with that person on the basis of these ethics. Okay, so we see the policeman. What is the work of policeman, or what is the obligation of policeman? So his obligation is that he has to protect the society. He has to minimize the crime of the society. So same the physician, doctor, he has to work for betterment of the health of society. A lawyer, he has to work to maintain the silence in the society, or to avoid the that things which are happening against with any person. So everyone is having the obligation, and that obligation comes in the dignity. Okay, so how the dignity is maintained? It is maintained by the ethical obligation. It is maintained by every person's on the basis of his duty or the law also, because when we drive
a car or bicycle or motorbike. So at that time, we have the obligation to follow the rules which have been given or decided by central government, state government, that uh, you drive your bike from left hand side. Okay, right hand side is wrong side. So that is also one type of ethics. Okay, so a day-to-day practice we are maintaining. We try to maintain. We try to follow these ethics. So same ethics we are going to follow in our research also. Okay, so two essential components are there with the human dignity. So two essential components. One is the selection and achievement of the morally acceptable ends. And second one is the morally acceptable means those ends which protect the multiple and independent interest of the person. So which are the types of these different interest? Okay, interest of the person. So in that the person he has to give the permission if we are using his physical parameters for our study, then psychological parameters, cultural integrity. So for all these we have to maintain the research ethics. Okay. Then after human dignity, the consent is required. Okay, to follow the research work, to conduct the research, or to uh, perform the analysis in the society, like the ratio of male female, like the study levels or completion of the degree diplomas, or what is HEI, higher education index. So all these parameters that will be conducted with consent of that society, with the consent of the government, with the consent of that particular person. So if we see the assumption, the individual have the capacity and right to make free and informed decisions. Okay. So as we are independent one, after the human dignity, the consent is required. Why? Because we are independent one, we have the right to be free, and we should decisions. So what is the part of consent in the research? Okay, research में कौन सा पार्ट है जो हमें कंसेंट लेना चाहिए? Okay, so in research the dialogues जो भी है वो हमें कंसेंट लेना चाहिए, उनकी कंसेंट लेके ही वो डायलॉग हम ले सकते हैं. देन प्रोसेस, देन राइट्स, then duties, requirement for free and informed consent by the research subject. Okay, so in the ethics, research cannot proceed without any consent. Okay, without any consent you should not perform any type of research. Okay, many times when we are using some images, some that figures, so at that time also we have to get the permission from that researcher or who is the publisher. So from him we have to take the consent from that person. Then rights
duties, requirement for free and informed consent by the research subject. Okay. Then your research cannot proceed without consent, and consent must be maintained throughout. Okay, consent it should not happen. ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए कि हमने कंसेंट लिया है कुछ प्राइमरी वर्क करने के लिए और हम पूरा स्टडी वही कंसेंट के ऊपर फिनिश कर रहे हैं. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए बिकॉज while you using the animals when हम जब एनिमल्स यूज करते हैं फॉर स्टडी तो उस समय हम प्राइमरी अप्रूवल लेते हैं इथिकल कमिटी का. प्राइमरी अप्रूवल होने के बाद हम वो एनिमल्स यूज करते हैं और वो होने के बाद जो नेक्स्ट लेवल स्टडी है लाइक क्लिनिकल ट्रायल्स तो उस समय भी हमें परमिशन लेना ही है. वी हैव टू टेक द परमिशन फॉर सेकंड स्टेप. तो इट शुड नॉट हैपन मैंने एक बार ले लिया और दैट इज यूज्ड टिल the completion of that study. Okay, so consent is very useful, very important while performing the ethics. Okay, then vulnerable persons. The vulnerable means we have just discussed. The vulnerable means the weak and easy to hurt physically or emotionally. Okay, so how we are going to control the vulnerability by using these ethics. Okay, research ethics. So ethical obligations towards vulnerable persons. So diminished competence, then diminished decision. So making the capacity entitled to special protection, special procedures to protect their interest based on the growth of human dignity, caring, solidarity, fairness, special protection against abuse, exploitation, and discrimination. Okay? So there must not be the discrimination with the people who are included in the studies. Then the special protections, if required for performing the studies, that should be given to that person or that part. Then special procedures to protect the interest like based on the ground of humans. So all these things we are maintaining in vulnerability. Then privacy and confidentiality, as we discussed, the fundamental confidentiality is the fundamental or privacy is the fundamental to human dignity. So standard protect the access, control, the dissemination of personal information which help to protect the mental, psychological and integrity. Okay. So all these will come under the principles according to this regular practice. So the person, he should be the centric or the beneficence and the justice should be received to that person. Okay? So that is included in the integrity. Then harms and benefits. So as we discussed the harms. Okay. So harms that person, he should know you should know what are the different benefits of that research, who is included in that part of the research. Then harm should not be outweigh the anticipated benefits that must be known by him. Then harms, if he know the benefit analysis affect the welfare and rights of the subjects. Okay. Then justice and inclusiveness. Next, that is justice and inclusiveness. So here we are trying that the process or the ethics that must be focused, that must be controlled by this fairness and equity. Then procedural justice, it may be received. Then application process, that is distributive justice, and we should know as we discuss the harms and benefits. Okay. Then non malfeasance. So that's our duty to avoid, prevent or minimize the harm. That is called the reasons. So no unnecessary risk of harm should be given. Then participation must be essential to achieving this, and scientifically and societally important aims that cannot be realized without the participation of human values. Okay. So we must participate the human values. We must participate the human subjects. And if the participation is there, then it is not the aim or it is not the realization that without the participation of human subject, the minimizing harm requires smallest number of the human subject that will ensure the valid data. Okay, data is very important. Data is required. Data is essential for getting these non-malfeasance. The beneficiaries, if we see the beneficiaries or beneficiaries, so the duty to benefit others. Research means is not the only objective is that to get the PhD degree to the researcher. This is not the objective, or he is not the beneficiary. The beneficiary must be other one. Okay, the society is the beneficiary. Any person may be beneficiary. Any living thing may be beneficiary. The research, this is not only beneficial to the humans. If it is beneficial to the animals, then also it is well and good, and it is a one part of research. Okay. Then the duty to maximize the net benefits. The beneficiaries, we must get the benefits. Suppose someone is developing the or doing the research in application development of banking core. अगर कोई बैंकिंग कोर के सिस्टम को डेवलप करना चाहता है in his research, in his topic, in his PhD topic, तो वो करते समय बेनिफिशियरी कौन होना चाहिए? बेनिफिशियरी मस्ट बी the person who has having the account with the bank. वो बैंक के साथ जिसका अकाउंट है वो बेनिफिशियरी रहेगा. उसके बाद वो जो एम्प्लॉयज है बैंक के वो बेनिफिशियरी रहेंगे, बिकॉज इट विल बी इजी टू कंडक्ट ऑल द प्रोसीजर विथ वन क्लिक. उसके बाद जो भी गवर्नमेंट है वो बेनिफिशियल रहेंगे, क्योंकि जो भी लॉस हो रहा है, जो भी प्रॉफिट हो रहा है, दैट इज इजीली आइडेंटिफाइड बाय द person or that particular banker or the government. Okay, तो उस समय मैक्सिमम लोगों के लिए आपका रिसर्च ये बेनिफिशियल चाहिए, वो रिसर्च इथिक्स में कहा गया है. Okay, that is said in research ethics. Then to produce the benefits for subjects themselves or the individuals. Okay, हमें कुछ सब्जेक्ट्स है, उनको हमें प्रोड्यूस करना है, उनको बेनिफिट हमको बताना है, अदर इंडिविजुअल्स को भी हमें उनके बेनिफिट बताना है. So to produce the benefits for society as a whole and for the advancement of knowledge, usually the primary benefit. Then after this beneficiary, the member of the commission to explain the principle of research ethics. So some members, they work in development of the research ethics, like the Boston Hospital for Women, then Johns Hopkins University, then University of California, then Pacific School of Religion. So all they work in the development of ethics. Then the ethical principles according to Belmont report. What is the Belmont report? So this Belmont report is based on for the identified 3 principles. Okay, the principles which is essential to ethical conduct of research with humans. Humans के लिए जो भी बेनिफिशियल है, इथिक्स जो भी बेनिफिशियल है, उसमें 3 प्रिंसिपल्स के ऊपर काम किया है बेलमॉन्ट ने. ओके, सो रिस्पेक्ट फॉर पर्सन, देन बेनिफिसेंस एंड जस्टिस. तीनों चीजें ये मिलना चाहिए, ये तीनों चीजें ये ग्रैब करना चाहिए, और ये तीनों चीजें मिलेंगी. कब मिलेंगी? when we follow the principles of ethics in our research, in our society, in our day-to-day life. So this is essential to follow the rules, regulations, dignity, objectivity, all these in our research. So respect for person is useful, beneficency is useful, and justice. So these 3 principles, they act on the ethics. Then 3 basic principles, they serve for the foundation of current HHS regulation and guidelines for ethical conduct of human subjects. So respect for human dignity, in that the principle include the right to self-determination, the right to full disclosure. जो भी राइट्स है ह्यूमन डिग्निटी के ऊपर, उसमें जो भी प्रिंसिपल्स है, वो प्रिंसिपल्स में जो दिया है, तो पहला है राइट टू सेल्फ डिटर्मिनेशन, उसके बाद है द राइट टू फुल डिस्क्लोजर. तो सेल्फ डिटर्मिनेंट होना चाहिए. तो ये राइट टू सेल्फ डिटर्मिनेशन क्या बोलता है? So the right to self-determination means that the prospective participant have the right to decide voluntarily whether to participate in a study without risking penalty or prejudicial treatment. Okay? Self-determinant मतलब वो ready रहना चाहिए, उसको पता चाहिए कि for which work, for which analysis we are using it. Okay? कुछ साइकोलॉजिकल क्वेश्चंस रहते हैं, कुछ साइकोलॉजिकल स्टडीज रहते हैं. तो साइकोलॉजिकल स्टडीज भी जो भी क्वेश्चनरी रहती है, वो क्वेश्चनरी भी जो है वो भी कभी कभी अफेक्ट करती है विद द लाइफ ऑफ दैट पर्सन. बिकॉज हम इतना इजीली साइकोलॉजिस्ट के पास नहीं जाते, क्योंकि कोई खुद साइकोलॉजिकल है ये कभी मानता ही नहीं है. सो दैट्स व्हाई the self determination is very important. Voluntarily he must participate in the study.
Then the right to full disclosure. ये जो है तो ये सब हम क्यों देख रहे हैं, क्योंकि रिसर्च इथिक्स जो है, whenever we go for research ethics, as I told you, the by mistakenly or by unknowingly, sometime we add data as such without taking the permission from that publisher, reviewer, author, राइटर के, उनसे हम परमिशन लेना, ये हमारा इथिक्स है। लेकिन कभी कभी अनजाने से बोलो या फिर पता रहने के बाद भी हम वो जैसे के वैसे ले लेते हैं, तो वो आता है प्लेगरिज्म में। प्लेगरिज्म में क्या क्या आता है, आप जो भी दूसरे का कुछ भी रिसर्च आप यूज करते हो, वो सब प्लेगरिज्म में आता है। प्लेगरिज्म मतलब क्या है, whatever the copying the data of others, same in your thesis, in your synopsis, in your report, that comes under plagiarism. And that plagiarism is not the, to coming our data in plagiarism, it is not the ethical practice. So वैसे ही plagiarism that must acceptable 10% by universities, institutes, or any research funding agencies. But more than 10%, the project thesis report, that will be rejected. So whatever the part, whatever the data, whatever the volunteers you are adding, you are using for your study, at that time we have to take the permission as per the law. Okay, so full disclosure that must be given, and he is having the right to refuse the participation, the researcher responsibility, and likely risk and benefit. Then summary, if we see related to the disclosure, this is not the summary of our lecture. So the summary of the right to full disclosure is that the self-determination and the right to full disclosure are the two major elements on which informed consent, okay, or at least we must disclosed or discussed with that participant. Then next, beneficence. So it is the one of the most fundamental ethical principle in research is that the beneficence which imposes a duty on researcher to minimize the harm, then which imposes a duty on researcher to minimize the harm and to maximize the beneficiencies. So this principle covers multiple dimensions. Okay, so in that, the right to freedom from harm and discomfort, and the right to protection from exploitation. Okay, then what is the right to protection from exploitation? So it is the involvement in a study should not place participants at the disadvantages. Okay. So harm and discomfort can take many emotions, stress, and used against them in any way. Okay, so participant need to be assured that their participation or informed. He must be provided. He must be informed. Everything, every matter which is included or which should be which must be included in the proposal. Okay. So all these proposal that should be written as per the requirement of the study.
Okay, requirement of the study. We have to prepare the proposal and we have to take the undertaking, or we have to inform about all the detailed information to that person. Then the right to protection from exploitation. So example, if we see the person who describes the economic circumstances to researcher should not be exposed to the risk of losing public health benefit. Then a person reporting a drug abuse should not fear exposure to criminal authorities. Okay. So many examples are there which are used or which are included in the studies. Okay. So here, if we see the qualitative and quantitative data. Okay. So qualitative research, what is qualitative research? It should have the quality. Risk of exploitation may become the especially acute because the psychological distance between the investigator and the participant typically decline as the study progresses. So on the other hand, if we study the better position than the quantitative research to do good rather than just to avoid doing harm. Okay, हमें क्या करना है? क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च करना है, क्वांटिटेटिव नहीं करना है. क्वांटिटी के ऊपर हमें रिसर्च नहीं करना है. Okay, in some cases there may be the quantitative research, but if we see the basic principle of the research must be qualitative. The quality must be there. And no doubt, if there may be less or more about the quantity, but the quality is very important. Then the justice. Justice is the third broad principle which is related to the Belmont report, which concern the justice. So what is the justice? That the right to fair treatment. So how the treatment get to that participant, and the right to privacy. Okay. So we are saying here the privacy, it must be maintained. Name of that person, age, sex of that person, all will be should be confidentially maintained. So here, if we see the participants. So what is mean by the participant, or who are the participants? Okay. So here we are going to define the participants. Okay. So participants, the people who are the principal focus of the research. Okay. Focus of the research, they are called the participant. Then to whom the research impact? So directly or concurrently or retrospectively, the research is going to affect. Research is going to beneficiary. So procedure for protecting study participants. So what is the procedure? These procedure that should evaluate the critiquing the ethical aspect of the study. So here the risk benefit assessment, we have to know, or we have to suggest, or we have to describe the benefits or the risk, the assessment of that. So such assessment is designed to determine whether the benefits of participating in a study are in line, or are they in cost, or by financial, physical, emotional, or social, whether risk to benefit ratio is acceptable. So are they acceptable or not? That we are going to assess. Okay. So risk to benefit ratio means that generally if we see the degree of risk, जो भी risk है वो और benefits है, उसके दोनों के बीच में असेसमेंट होना चाहिए, उस दोनों के बीच में कंपैरिजन होना चाहिए, वो दोनों के बीच में एनालिसिस होना चाहिए, और वो एनालिसिस के ऊपर हम पढ़ेंगे, हम एनालिसिस करेंगे, हम रिसर्च करेंगे, और हम ये पार्टिसिपेंट्स को बताएंगे कि वो कैसे हम यूज कर सकते हैं, वो हम कैसे प्रैक्टिस में ला सकते हैं, और उसका बेनिफिट क्या है, रिस्क क्या है, और उसका यूज क्या है फॉर द पार्टिसिपेंट्स. Okay, so the risk benefit that should be known, the guideline of the degree of risk that are given and that are being taken by the knowledge to be gained. So the selection of significant topic, the selection of significant project, that is very important, that is very potential, and that will increase the quality of our research. So what are the potential benefits to the participants? They will get some financial benefits. They will get some intervention. Then the comfort in being able to discuss their situation or problem with a friendly, objective person. Then either the opportunity for introspection and self-reflection, or through direct interaction with researcher. Okay. Then we are going to escape the normal routine or excitement part of the study. Then satisfaction, the information they provided may help other with similar problem. Then physical harm, which included the unanticipated side effect, physical discomfort like boredom, fatigue, and psychological or emotional distress, as we discussed. Then loss of time, loss of privacy, ये सब हो सकते हैं, लेकिन हमें रिसर्च इथिक्स में हमें उसको अवॉइड करना है, हमें उसको प्रोटेक्ट करना है, और रिसर्च इथिक्स में हमको ये सब चीजें यूज करना है. Okay? Then research ethics in these the areas of focus. So if we think about the ethics, so the different areas like harm, it should not be harmful. Then the research should not take every the researcher should take the precaution that it should not be harmful to any person of the society. Then the participants, if they are subjected to undue harm or stress, then we should plan, हमें उनका प्लान करना चाहिए कि how the harm is going to control or going to avoid, or the planning must be there. So ये harm और जो discomfort है, ये क्या करेगा, वो physical injury नहीं होने देगा, emotional stress नहीं आने देगा, social loss नहीं होने देगा, और ये हम avoid करने के लिए हम ethical practice करते हैं. Okay? So researcher must use the strategies to minimize this harm. So all types of harm and discomfort, even ones that are टेम्पररी. अगर वो टेम्पररी भी है तो भी हमें उसका सोचना है. देन इन्फॉर्म कंसेंट. Okay, we have discussed about the consent, so we should take the voluntary information related to the research involving human subject. So according to the this consent, the description of the nature of the research, that is statement that the research is voluntary and participants can withdraw at any time. So identification of the risk and benefit, then description of how confidentially will be protected, description of compensation. So about all these हमें consent के बारे में सोचना है. Then confidentiality हमें maintain करना है. All information which is collected in a research project should remain confidential. Okay, हम जो रिसर्च में जो नाम यूज करते हैं वो हमें कोडिंग के द्वारा हम बता सकते हैं XYZ ABC 1 2 3 ऐसे with different number or with different coding we can enlist, we can give, we can add the data. Okay, or participant should be assigned the complaint code. उसके बाद डाटा जो है it should be locked away in a secure setting. इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डाटाबेस जो है वो भी अगर है तो प्रोटेक्ट करना चाहिए. ओके, सो ये कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी में आता है. उसके बाद प्लेगरिज्म जो है वो भी कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी में आता है. सो प्लेगरिज्म मीन्स टू किडनैप. ओके, सो एग्जाम्पल प्लेगरिज्म के जो है उसमें आता है कॉपिंग समवन एल्स वर्ड्स विदाउट प्रॉपर साइटेशन. अगर हम विदाउट साइटेशन विदाउट रेफरेंसेस अगर कुछ लेते हैं तो उसको हम प्लेगरिज्म कहते हैं. तो विदाउट द साइटेशन विदाउट द परमिशन अगर हम वो जैसे के वैसे कॉपी कर रहे हैं हमारे प्रोजेक्ट में हमारे रिपोर्ट में तो वो आ जाएगा प्लेगरिज्म. उसके बाद स्टीलिंग समवन एल्स आइडियाज. हम अगर किसी के आइडिया भी ले रहे हैं तो भी वो प्लेगरिज्म में आता है. लेकिन वो आइडिया खाली दिमाग में नहीं होनी चाहिए. समवेयर इट शुड बी रिटन, समवेयर इट शुड बी डिस्क्राइब. ओके, उसके बाद किसी का हम इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी भी ले रहे हैं तो वो भी हमें उनकी परमिशन के बगैर हम यूज नहीं कर सकते. एंड मिनिमम और मिनिमाइज द कोटेशंस इन रिसर्च रिपोर्ट्स. रिसर्च रिपोर्ट्स में हम जो साइट सोर्सेस लिखते हैं वो प्रॉपरली लिखने चाहिए. उसके बाद वल्नरेबल ग्रुप्स का जो ट्रीटमेंट है वो भी हमें कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी में आता है. चिल्ड्रंस जो है लीगली एंड इथिकली वो रहना चाहिए. मेंटली और इमोशनली डिसेबल्ड पीपल ये सब आते हैं वल्नरेबल ग्रुप्स में. देन सेवरली आते हैं, द टर्मिनली इल आते हैं और इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज्ड पीपल ये सब आते हैं हमारे कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी में जिनका हमें कॉन्फिडेंशियल डाटा मेंटेन रखना है. उसके बाद रिपोर्टिंग रिजल्ट्स एंड प्लेगरिज्म. उसमें जो है ये सब अगर हम एग्जाम्पल देखते हैं द पीपल हु कैन नॉट रीड एंड राइट और who have a physical impairment preventing them from writing alternative procedures for documenting informed consent should be used. Okay, so for citations, for writing the citation, for collecting the references, for collecting the data, the ethics has been mentioned. रिसर्च में जो जो इथिक्स है वो सब मेंशन किए वाला है और वही हम ले रहे हैं, वही इसकी हम स्टडी कर रहे हैं. ओके, क्यों इथिक्स? व्हाई वी आर स्टडीइंग द इथिक्स? टू मेंटेन द स्टैंडर्ड इन रिसर्च, टू अवॉइड द डुप्लीकेसी इन रिसर्च, टू अवॉइड द फेल्योर ऑफ द रिसर्च, टू मेक strongness or strong your research. All these parameters they play a vital role in ethical research ethics. So that's why we have studied the principles, okay, principles related to the research ethics. Okay, So most of the principles are the, if we see the different things, right to exploitation, right to freedom, beneficiaries, so all that, or respect for human dignity, they all comes under the ethical principles according to the different reports. Okay, so if we see the if we see here on the different parts or different parameters, or if you revise all these parameters which are related to the research ethics. So if we revise the principle, then principle is basically depend on the three things. Okay, three things it is depend. One is respect for person, then beneficiaries and justice. And why we required these all things? Because to maintain the standard, to become or to fulfill the expectations of the research activity, then as per the professional requirement, we are fulfilling or we are taking these research ethics, then a requirement for then the requirement of the comply of the external fundings, or to impose a common standard in all above respect, and the sufficient knowledge is to achieve the sufficient knowledge to reflect the respect to take part in the research. So for all these we need the research ethics. Okay, so here I stop for today's class. I expect that everyone has understood about the research ethics, about all the principles of research ethics and applications of ethics in our day-to-day life. So if you have any query, the session is open for any query or for discussion. अगर आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम है तो you can ask. Session is now open for discussion. अगर आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो you can ask. ये दो चीजों में क्वेश्चंस नहीं है, मतलब वहां पे दो चीजें हो सकती है, एक तो सबको समझ में आ गया या फिर किसी को भी समझ में नहीं आया, दोनों में से एक हो सकता है. तो विच आई विल कंसिडर पीपीटी आई विल शेयर इन योर ग्रुप. पीपीटी जो है मैं शेयर करूंगा आपके ग्रुप में. ठीक है, ऐसे कुछ नहीं है कि क्वेश्चन ही पूछना चाहिए. वी कैन आल्सो डिस्कस ऑन सम पॉइंट्स. हम कुछ पॉइंट्स के ऊपर डिस्कशन भी कर सकते हैं कि कहाँ पर रिसर्च इथिक्स का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है, कहाँ पर रिसर्च इथिक्स को हम हमारे रिसर्च के लिए उसको यूज कर सकते हैं, कहाँ पर रिसर्च इथिक्स का हमें सोसाइटल बेनिफिट है. ये सब चीजें हम डिस्कस कर सकते हैं. ऐसे कुछ नहीं है कि ये शुड आस्क क्वेश्चन, ऐसे कुछ है किसी बारे में हम डिस्कशन कर सकते हैं.
सर ये चैप्टर्स पे किस तरह से क्वेश्चन हमें आएंगे कोर्स वर्क के एग्जाम में?
ओके, क्वेश्चन ऐसे आ सकते हैं कि व्हाट इज रिसर्च इथिक्स, and write the principles of research ethics. Then दूसरे क्वेश्चन ऐसे भी आ सकते हैं कि अगर आप कोई प्रोजेक्ट प्रपोजल लिख रहे हो तो उस समय कौन से पार्ट है जो जिनमें रिसर्च इथिक्स हम ले सकते हैं, और यूटिलाइजेशन और एप्लीकेशन ऑफ रिसर्च इथिक्स इन योर पीएचडी, ऐसे क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं। या फिर प्लेगरिज्म के ऊपर क्वेश्चन आता ही है जनरली। प्लेगरिज्म भी इम्पोर्टेंट है इसमें। प्लेगरिज्म का आपको समझ में आ गया ना?
जी सर। सर इसके लिए कोई सफिशिएंट बुक है क्या मार्केट में एथिक्स के ऊपर?
हाँ है, इथिक्स के ऊपर बुक है ना। इथिक्स के ऊपर निराली पब्लिकेशन का बुक है। उसके बाद कुछ नोट्स अवेलेबल है इथिक्स के ऊपर। इथिक्स का ही थोड़ा सा हार्ड जाता है पेपर, जैसे मैंने सुना है तो उसमें एक हार्डनेस जो बोलते हैं, तो इथिक्स का ही पेपर जाता है ऐसे बोलते हैं। क्योंकि इथिक्स क्या है ये समझने के लिए हमारी पीएचडी होने के बाद हमें समझता है कि इथिक्स का यूज कहाँ पर है और कैसे होता है। अभी थेरोटिकल इसमें तो आप पढ़ाई करके ही आंसर लिख सकते हो, लेकिन प्रैक्टिकली हमें कब समझ में आ जाएगा कि जब हम जब हम कंप्लीट करते हैं, जब हम लिटरेचर रिव्यू करते हैं, जब हम पेपर रीडिंग करते हैं, प्रूफ रीडिंग करते हैं, जब हम प्लेगरिज्म करते हैं, जब हम पेपर डाउनलोड करते हैं, उस समय इथिक्स का जो है वो एक्चुअल प्रैक्टिकल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन समझ में आता है। ठीक है
ओके सर।
Sir, can you provide notes in PDFs?
Yes, I will share in group, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. और कोई पार्ट है डिस्कशन का?
सर नेक्स्ट लेक्चर कब होगा सर?
नेक्स्ट लेक्चर अभी मैं शेड्यूल लेता हूँ मराठी सर से और कन्वे करने
जनरली
लगता
sir, I request you please conduct this session for ERP.
Sure. Yes,
सर
yes.
आप क्वेश्चन रिपीट कर सकते हैं, मैं नोट कर लेता हूँ।
हाँ, क्वेश्चन एक है, डिफाइन रिसर्च इथिक्स, राइट द एप्लीकेशन ऑफ रिसर्च इथिक्स। उसके बाद राइट द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ रिसर्च इथिक्स। उसके बाद application of research ethics in PhD work। उसके बाद plagiarism। उसके बाद human values, which are the different human values। ऐसे एक 4-5 सवाल आ सकते हैं।
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
Yes, sir. So, should we stop here?
यस सर।
Yes.
Okay. So, thank you all for kind
Thank you,
listening.
sir. Thank you.
झालं का लेक्चर? लिवायचं काय ग्रुप मधून?
थांबा वेट करा, सर टाकतील आता येतील.
मीटिंग संपली का?
जॉईन होते.
हो झाली.
लेक्चर संपलं का सर?
हो
हो, झालं.
संपला.
ठीक आहे थांबा, मी मराठी सरांना फोन करतो.
ओके सर.
हॅलो हॅलो.
यस सर.
हा हॅलो. सरांचं संपलं का लेक्चर?
हा सर.
येस सर, येस.
की सर म्हणजे याच्यामुळे लेट झाले?
नो 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 नो.
नाही लेक्चर झाले सर.
म्हणजे लेक्चर संपलं का? बरं ठीक आहे.
Yes.
मग आपण काय करू, वी विल मीट टुमॉरो मॉर्निंग फॉर आवर नेक्स्ट लेक्चर.
ओके.
ठीक आहे. काही असं तुम्हाला डिफिकल्टीज ते सांगा मला. नाही ना काही?
हॅलो.
आता थांबू इथं.
नाही सर.
ओके.
सर
ठीक.
ते असाइनमेंटचं सर किती पॉइंट लिहायचे नेमकं तेच काही कळत नाही सर.
हा आता ते काय करा, तुम्ही एक्झामच्या दृष्टीने तर प्रश्न लिहिण्याचा प्रयत्न करा. एक्झाम मध्ये
अच्छा,
समजा 10 मार्काचा प्रश्न विचारला तर कसा लिहिसाल तुम्ही, त्याच्यासाठी ते हे आहेत तुम्हाला. 2-3 पानं लिहा.
अच्छा.
जास्त हा 2-3 पेजेस.
ठीक आहे सर.
हो
चालेल.
ठीक आहे मग.
येस.